Coming up on Stonation. I'll just start simple. Top 3 reasons why you chose the Revel over the Storyteller.
Well, I think probably the number one is actually the Euroloft bed. And so we really like the fact that the bed stays made. We can keep our memory foam mattress topper on top, not feeling any cracks or anything along those lines, and just lift it right on up when we're not using it.
Welcome to another episode of Stonation, a production of Park Media. Before I introduce today's guest, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, share, and leave a 5-star review. And if you find this podcast useful in any way and want to pay us the ultimate compliment, head on over to our Patreon page where you can subscribe to be a Classic, Stealth, or Beast Mode subscriber. What's going on, Stonation? For this episode, I wanted to give you guys a different perspective, especially for those who are currently looking to buy either the Revel or a Storyteller. While I was at the Adventure Van Expo in Bend, Oregon, I met Jessica Harben, and we started talking about why she decided to buy a Revel over a Storyteller, and then kindly agreed to come onto the podcast to explain the main reasons of why her and her partner chose a Revel over a Storyteller. I think it's really important to be able to hear a multitude of opinions, even if it's not our own, and to hear other people's priorities and what they finally decide to purchase when choosing a Class B van. I know you'll enjoy this episode, so please sit back, relax, and welcome Jessica Harben to the Stonation family. Jessica.
Hey.
Welcome to Stonation.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I've been on the search for someone who looked at both Storyteller and Revel, and you chose the Revel.
We did.
Yeah. So before we begin with all the whys, let's go over your background real quick. Like, where are you from? What do you do?
Yeah.
All that stuff.
So I'm originally from Michigan, but live in Seattle now. Been there for about 10 years or so. I am a marketing consultant. So we are part-time van lifers. We can get away and do the remote work thing, but not as hardcore as you.
Yeah, it's definitely a deep plunge when you go full-time, but it's
totally
fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We look forward to meeting there sometime.
Yeah, right? So since you're part-timers, did that take an effect of why you chose a Revel, or I guess let's just get down to it.
Yeah, well, the Revel wasn't our first van. So we had like I jokingly would call it a hey kid, want some candy kind of van that was a lower profile. It was a GMC Savannah that had been sort of DIY converted. And we actually, when we decided to kind of take the plunge into a bigger and better van, it was largely because we sort of hit the proverbial ceiling of our current van. We got a second dog, which was definitely a factor as we were searching for our new van. And our old van was like on the fritz. It was not going to make it for the next major road trip that we already had planned. So time was of the essence in finding our next replacement. But yeah, no, I mean we got the van life bug about 2 years ago. So like right at the like pre-COVID.
Oh, yeah.
So our first van was like perfect timing in terms of actually having something in hand and being able to kind of socially extra distance.
Yeah. And then, so you didn't have to pay like the high prices that everyone else is paying right now, right?
Totally. For our first van, let's be clear.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
For our Revel, that was actually one of the key factors in going with the Revel over the Storyteller is that the Revels were hard to come by, but they were not impossible to come by, which was definitely a factor for the Storyteller Overland, like every mode.
Right. Yeah, people are waiting over a year.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and we already had a trip planned. Granted, we had a good, I think we had probably about 7 months runway before we were, knowing we were going to be hitting the road and knowing that our old van was not going to cut the next trip.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So where did you end up buying?
So to get our Revel, we actually had to fly to Rockford, Illinois. Yeah, and then drive it all the way back to Seattle. So we got like out of the gate, first road trip under our belts.
Wow, that's crazy. It's quite the maiden voyage.
Exactly, 3 days from Illinois to Seattle.
Yeah.
It was no joke.
Yeah, so I guess what are like the top I'll just start simple. Top 3 reasons why you chose the Revel over the Storyteller.
Well, I think probably the number one is actually the Euroloft bed. That was like a key decision. Our old van had a bed that you had to put together to sleep in it, and we just stopped taking it apart. So we just had our van bed out all the time, which actually was quite a space suck. And so we really like the fact that the bed stays made. We can keep our memory foam mattress topper on top, not feeling any cracks or anything along those lines, and just lift it right on up when we're not using it. We have a GLSS system by Canyon Adventure Vans, so we can still use that back garage area, you know, as extra working space or what have you when we're not sleeping, so we're not missing the space, and, you know, there's not a 10, 11, 12 p.m. wrestle to make the bed every night.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay.
Yeah, so that's number one. So I think number two was availability. Like literally when we were looking at the Storytellers, dealers told us we can't even give you a timeline of when you would actually be able to get something. So that wasn't...
So when did you start looking?
So we started looking for our Revel around February of 2020.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Wait, what year is it now? 2021. So February 2021.
Okay, so like within 6 months. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that explains why there's nothing available.
Exactly. And it was the, you know, height of everybody and their mother deciding that they were ready to go buy a van.
Yeah.
And so it was poor timing in terms of the second round of purchasing our van. But then the third piece was actually the price point, right? Because it was a significant difference between the Revel and both the Stealth and, of course, the Beast mode. We opted for the Revel, and we actually put a lot of our own modifications on it. Some of them are very similar to what you might see on a Storyteller, but we kind of had a little bit more control and customization as we were doing it. Like, we got a color that we were really excited about. We have sort of a silver van, which is not really available
that's
in
pretty cool.
in any realm on the Storyteller scene.
Okay. So I guess the one thing that's kind of throwing me off is that you didn't say the bathroom.
Oh, yeah, no, that was absolutely, that's a whole nother story.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, let's get into that one then.
For sure. The bathroom is clutch for the Revel. My partner and I, we love each other very much. That is not an experience we need to have together. Having a solid door that can close is super important. We don't always close it. Let's not lie about the situation here, but yeah, no, having the bathroom with its own dedicated space is super important. It's actually really critical for the dogs. We have 2 larger dogs that can get up on counters and into things, so having a door that can lock is actually another like nice little bonus feature that we can put anything like dog food or what have you in the bathroom. We use it. We don't actually shower in the van very often. If anything, we use the outdoor shower when we're going to be showering in the van. I guess it's part of the part-time life bouginess. But yeah, having the sort of closet feature and functionality and shower when we need it is another like critical thing. So I know everybody on the Storyteller scene says the bathroom is wasted space. It's an airplane bathroom. Like, it's critical space for us, and to be able to use it in a bunch of different ways, I think is really key.
So just, you don't have to answer this because it might be TMI, but when you guys use the bathroom, you close the door, can you still hear the other person doing their stuff?
Not that much. When the door is closed, I mean, it's similar to like if you had, you know, a door in a house, right? Like, could I hear? Yeah. If somebody, like, if you were in a small bathroom in like a powder room or something like that in somebody's house, like there are parts that happen, and yes, you can hear them.
Okay.
But is it the same as, you know, in our old van, we had what we called the throne room, which was the whole separate setup of the pop-up tent and all of that. It's not a pop-up tent experience. You can definitely like...
Right.
And the lovely thing is you can like close that smell in, put some poopery, and it's not taking up the whole van.
Yeah, that's true. And there's a vent.
And we have the little vent up top, totally. So they call it the fart fan.
Ooh, that's a good word. I like that. So on the Revel, correct me if I'm wrong, you can also use this shower as a storage thing. Do you guys do that too?
Absolutely. Okay. Yep. That's like, basically that's our go-to first first closet, so to speak. So that's where we're keeping all of our like towels and, like I said, the dog food, like our clothes. We use little like stuff sack kinds of things. We keep them right in there. So I mean, that's our primary personal stuff storage. The back in the GLSS, that's all of the camp chairs and the you know, water hoses and power setup and all of that sort of stuff. So
So what are some of the things that you really like about the Revel other than the bed, bathroom, and I can't remember the third thing that you said.
Oh, it was the price point.
Oh, the price
for
point.
sure. Yeah. And I think that that's actually, I'm a tinkerer personally. Like, I like that I can, like, just last weekend I replaced the faucet in the Revel and did something that was like a little bit more flexible. Literally, it has like a hose that comes out now, and it has like a water filter with a Hydrovive in there and a separate like spigot for filtered water. So like those sorts of like tinkery projects I've really enjoyed about the Revel, and I don't know that I, especially once I had like shelled out the money for a Storyteller, I don't know that I would have done that if we'd gone with a Storyteller.
Gotcha. Do you mind if I ask how much you paid for it?
So we paid $152 for it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was a big price difference.
Wow.
I mean, we had to search for the $152. Don't get me wrong. And it was like on a moment's notice, fly to Illinois sort of scenario.
The classic sells for $150, the 2021s.
So when we were looking, and again, timing is everything, right? Like they were quoting us almost $180.
Who's they?
The dealership that we were working with.
Oh, that's totally wrong. So that kind of makes me a little bit upset. We'll talk offline about this. But the Storytellers are fixed priced, so you can't pay any more than what
and it's possible I'm misremembering, but it was one of those things where it was significantly, and it might have been like a beast mode or something along those lines, where like, and again, they couldn't even tell us when it would be when it would be available, so it was very like pie in the sky when we were looking around.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So on the flip side, what are the things that you don't like about the Revel?
I mean, power is obviously the biggest area where Storyteller wins hand over glove, right? I think that's the setup that you guys have is awesome, and just in terms of the capacity, the runtime, all of that, like that's a no-brainer. I think the other piece, there are, you know, Winnebago is a mass-produced van. Like there are sort of touches and that extra level of fit and finish that you know, at least so I've seen and heard is a big difference maker on the Storyteller side.
Yeah. Okay, so that being said, does stuff break down a lot, or have you had issues? Well, let me back up. How long have you actually like traveled in and used the Revel?
So we've had the van since end of March, beginning of April.
Okay.
And we did a you know, since then we've done sort of weekend type road trips, long weekends, things along those lines. And then we did a 5-week trip just about a month and a half ago.
Okay. So you have decent time in the van.
Yeah,
cool.
we've covered something like 16,000 miles all in, something like that. So like we're not being shy in terms of putting the mileage on.
Nice.
Yeah. And you know, it's a great excuse to get out of the city.
Yeah, I know, right?
Totally.
Well, it's so weird because like sometimes I feel like picking a van like Revel versus Storyteller can, not for all, but for some, people are like very die hard that which side. I'm personally like, if a Revel works for you or anybody else and that fits your needs, then that's awesome. Like I just want people to be happy, you know. And so like the only reason why I picked the Storyteller was because it was kind of timing, because I was going to wait too, but I kind of got in right before the pandemic.
Good job.
Yeah. But was just the power, because I work out of the van full time.
Totally.
So if it wasn't for that, then, you know, I did like the Euro loft bed, I think is what you call it. That was pretty nifty. And then Jason, he's a good friend of mine from Canyon Adventure Vans. You know, he just kind of revolutionized the entire back space
actually,
of that.
That's probably one of the pieces that was also a difference maker when we were looking at, like, Canyon Adventure Vans has just started coming out with Storyteller stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And so when we were originally looking at it, you sort of had this, like, fixed equipment set for, like, the add-ons, right? And, you know, I've seen, like, Chad and Paul and some of the other, like, Storyteller, like, influencers, if you will. And when they do the tours of their vans these days, 9 times out of 10, the stuff is also Canyon Adventure van stuff that I have the same thing in my van too. So it's all just a matter of what your kind of add-on agenda looks like.
Yeah.
But yeah, the power is a big difference maker, and eventually we're going to add on a third battery. Maybe that's actually part of the like difference maker. We kind of had the logic of, rather than having the upfront cost, like we have sort of like things that we can do over time for the 10K difference.
Yeah.
And again, like, because I am fairly handy, like we're able to kind of save some money, and kind of, again,
definitely.
It's fun to have projects, especially when we have the luxury of having all these saws and and things along those lines in the house. So.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
If I had a house, I would do the same.
Exactly.
So, you have the lithium power system, right?
Yes, yeah, which was a big difference between there were many earlier Revel options available, used, or the person who we originally purchased our first van from was selling his 2020 Revel.
Okay.
And he was like gonna hook us up. It was like, like a family thing, right? And at the end of the day, we're like, why? Like, the 2021 is so much, there's like so many significant improvements, right? Like the battery improvements in the 2021 was a key decision, because one of the actual reasons that we ended up kind of taking the plunge from our first van to the second is we just had so many power system issues. So kind of getting to that lithium battery was super critical. And with the dogs in the car, we need to make sure that we can run the AC for at least a little while at a time. And when we're on the road, we tend to be kind of on the move fairly frequently. Like, we're going on road trips versus just staying somewhere for a week. So in that, we're getting our batteries back up to full in 40 minutes of driving.
Okay. So how long does the actual, how long can you go with the AC on for the dogs before you deplete the batteries?
Yeah, so we obviously, I'm not going to risk the dog, so we don't really test it, too hardcore, right? I think the longest that we've left, actually yesterday here, it was pretty hot. They were in the car for almost 3 hours with the battery running, and I was only down to maybe 80%. So a lot of it will depend on, humidity was a huge factor. When we were traveling down in the south, we were in Tennessee, we were not getting that sort of battery time.
What were you getting?
So we had left the dogs for about 2 hours in 90+ degree, super humid temperatures, and we went from 100% to about 70 in about an hour and a half.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it's definitely no 11 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've never gotten 11 hours out of my AC, to be honest. So
yeah,
but
it's all about where you set the temperature and
exactly.
all those sorts of things. So, and that's actually another difference between the new Revel versus the old, is that I can set a temperature similar to what's on the Storyteller setup, versus having to just, the old way, it was you're either on or off, and there was nothing in between.
Yeah. No, I remember those days because I had a Winnebago Travato.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that was interesting. But anyways.
Totally.
Okay, so you get decent power. I'm actually surprised by how many hours you get out of the AC from those batteries.
Yeah, and I mean, again, we're not the dogs are not wearing a sweater in the van, right? I yesterday was optimizing for time so that we could, kind of.
What did you set the thermostat to?
So the thermostat was set to 76 for them. So I mean, they're not by any means, going to pass out, but they're also not in Arctic conditions by any stretch of the imagination.
Right. Okay,
so.
Cool. So what are some other things that, I don't want to say you dislike, because I'm sure you love your Revel, but other things, if you were the chief designer, what would you redesign?
I think there were some things that, again, I'm a tinkerer, so some of them I've tried to change and fix along the way. There are some things where it's just less than optimal, let's say, and we've definitely kind of leaned into the opportunities to customize things. I think there are a lot of rattles. We go on rattle hunts fairly regularly, and we've done a lot of the DIY insulation and things along those lines. Again, it's good to give me a project.
What do you
sometimes.
use for insulation?
Havelock wool.
Okay.
So,
because I saw some videos, I mean, not to bash on Revel, but there was,
it was
very
sad.
minimal. Okay.
Yeah, no,
I
for
just
sure.
needed confirmation if that was actually.
Yeah, no,
okay.
for sure. It was sad.
Okay.
And so, like we, and there are some areas that like, I'm not going to take apart the whole van to put more insulation in it. Right. And we're not living in Alaska.
Right.
we're in a very temperate area. We don't get super cold winters. Like we're generally fine. We don't get super hot summers either. So did sort of like the doors, the back doors, like the areas that were most easily accessible. We've kind of done that extra layer of insulation, but didn't insulate the flare spaces or take apart the kitchen in order to get insulation behind things.
Yeah.
So like.
That's when you put stuff back together and you find like 5 screws left over and you're like, oh.
Where was that supposed to go?
Hopefully it doesn't fall apart.
Well, yeah, and I guess that's one of the other things that like, there are some less than detail-oriented elements of the build where, as I was doing the extra insulation and things along those lines, like screws were stripped and crooked and things along those lines where like, it's not my favorite.
Yeah.
And, I guess that's the flip side of the coin in terms of the mass production.
Yeah. Well, to go off of that note, have you contacted Winnebago for like warranty issues for stuff like that or?
Not for stuff like that, because generally speaking, it's all like small fry stuff. Again, it's
oh, hey, Max, what's going on?
Do you love
Paul's
your Storyteller?
Yeah, that's Paul's dog.
Nice.
You made a cameo.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I mean, I think for things along those lines, like we've had one issue where we had to kind of seek warranty piece. It was actually, unfortunately, with the AC. It was super simple fix. We just needed a soft start. Okay. No big deal. But yeah, that's really I guess, not a battle that I'm ready to take up because it's.
I was just curious how Winnebago's customer service was. So,
I think, where we had to work through that particular warranty issue, they were super helpful. We ended up having to work through our dealer that we had purchased it from because, unfortunately, he had noted the issue and forgotten to install the soft start before giving it to us. And so with that, but, in the end, they were super helpful and pleasant, I suppose, in getting it all sorted. And it was, like I said, it was a super easy fix.
Okay.
But yeah, I think the biggest piece, and this is true of all vans, like anything where you have to actually take it in someplace for a warranty, like fix, like the wait time is just insane right now because, again, everybody and their mother is buying a van.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I totally feel that pain. Trust me.
I bet.
So let's move on to the chassis portion. So it's the same chassis, but you have a little bit different trim. Like you have LED lights, I think, right?
I believe so. So my partner is in charge of the outside. I'm in charge of the inside. So he's a little bit more well versed on the on the details there. But I would say the majority of the issues that we've had with our van have actually been chassis issues.
Okay, like what? I just want to see if we have the same.
Yeah, no. So we had an issue with our door that you actually literally couldn't open the sliding door.
Oh, wow.
We had to get like a pry bar and like so we had to then go and fix all the paint and things along those lines because, again, please see previous comment, getting something in for any sort of warranty work is next to impossible these days. So we spent a good month prying open the slider door anytime we needed to go in and out because we couldn't get an appointment at a Mercedes dealership.
And it's not the power door.
It's just a regular door, and the door itself was like, it took way too long to figure out what exactly was going on, but there was like basically a faulty like hookup or something along those lines. But it took 3 trips to the dealer.
Wow.
And
sounds like a nightmare.
And while it was at the dealership, our car was actually broken into.
What?
Yeah. So, and they took the dumbest stuff.
What did they take?
The power cord to our Wii Boost, the base station for our Simply Safe security, but not any of the security elements or like, so the one thing that they can tell where you took it to and it does nothing.
That's funny.
They took our like national parks pass, which was just salt in the wound.
That's jerk. Those are jerks. Come on.
And like our like vanity mirror that goes on, like it was just the most. Oh, and the other, like, speaking of jerks, they took all of our national park stickers that we had collected for, like, years. Like, there were stickers that I had from when I was, like, in high school. And we were just getting ready to, like, install them. It had been, like, literally on our to-do list of, like, put stickers on fridge. And they took all of them.
Bastards.
Totally.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So, anyway, like, chasing down...
Did they find him? There's got to be cameras at the dealership, right?
I will spare the name of the dealership, but they are not on our happy list. And, it was they did nothing to make it right.
Really?
Didn't compensate us for any of the stuff. And either... Because there was no damage to the vehicle. So they either left it unlocked because they had it at, like, a off... property lot in Seattle, you know, in the Sodo neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And
I know that neighborhood.
Yep. And they either somebody had the keys and got access to it, or they didn't lock it. And
it was an inside job.
That's what we think.
Oh my gosh. That's awful.
Yeah. And we even went to the GM and the owner of the dealership, and they still have not made it right.
Wow.
Yeah. No.
We'll talk offline.
Totally.
That's crazy. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, no, but it was just sort of like adding salt to the wound of not being getting two large dogs in and out the front seats, like having that as our only door for weeks was not the best.
That's
and then
insane.
I don't know if you've had this electrical demon, but the cruise control sensor that just randomly decides that it doesn't want to work anymore. Yeah, that's the other one that we're still trying to pin that one down exactly and get that fixed up.
Yeah, I was told, don't quote me on this, I might get some hate mail on this one, but I think the dealership can recalibrate it.
That's what we were told as well. We're going to try another dealership, but it took us another month and a bit to get an appointment. So actually, I think that one's this coming week.
Okay.
So fingers crossed.
I know, right? Well, if you're ever in the Salt Lake City area, I usually go to Warner Vans. Yeah. So they're pretty decent. They can get you in probably faster than 5 months. So.
Exactly. Might be worth driving to Salt Lake City for that one.
I know. Well, I kind of zigzag, so it just turns out like whenever I go through Salt Lake City, I stop there to get my stuff serviced. But yeah, that's crazy. There's so many nightmare stories about the dealerships. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, it's one of those things that like we got a great place that does any other like non-warranty repairs, so we're able to get in pretty easily on those sorts of things. So it's really just the like where you have to actually go to like a official.
Just cringe.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so other than the door and the sensors, anything else?
I think that's it thus far, unless there's something that I've just, emotionally blacked out.
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your mods, since we have the same chassis.
Yeah. Well, some of them, like in terms of our exterior mods, I'll channel my partner Jim because he's very proud of the mods that he's made. So we actually did a wrap similar to the Storyteller in the sense that we have our hood wrapped. We did the whole hood and then the runners as well as the little spot there. But we actually had while they were doing that, we had our vinyl people do a custom name because our van is named Hermes. And so we got them to do that at the same time.
Nice. That's cool.
And actually that's probably one of our other like very first mods was to take all of the Winnebago stickers off. Like we're simple people.
Yep. No, I hear you. I did the exact same thing on mine.
We literally didn't even leave the dealer lot because we were testing everything to make sure that like we understood how to run everything. So we actually stayed at our dealer in Rockford overnight and standing in the lot doing
Yeah.
doing the, hair dryer, trying to get all of
Right.
the decals off. But yeah, then in terms of other mods, we have put a full-size spare tire on the back.
Okay.
We learned just trying to get the real spare out because we already had the full on the back. We would not want to be doing that if we were actually in a situation that we needed a spare tire.
Exactly.
And it's definitely not a one-person job.
Mm-hmm.
And then we actually hung, we have some Baja Designs LP9 lights that went on the front with
nice.
the sort of built-in light bar, so it's not the big clunky thing out front. And Jim would want me to say, with the IPT, the integrated peripheral technology.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds
cool. It means
cool.
that it kind of like can, in addition to shining the light straight forward, it kind of gets you a little bit of angles on either end.
Like
so
when
we
you
go out
turn?
Or
just
it's
in general?
just in general.
Okay,
so you get sort of like the full 180 lit up, and
Gotcha.
when you can't turn them on, obviously, when you're on regular roads. But when you go out into the forest, it's like daylight.
Wow, that's
when
cool.
you've got those going on.
Heck yeah.
For sure.
Nice.
And then we put a couple of extra storage items up on our roof. We actually took a simple, like, rifle case style hard shell case and mounted that to our roof bars, and we use that for all of our recovery equipment, straps and things along those lines, as well as like air compressor. We keep some emergency people food, some emergency dog food, so that we basically have the proverbial go bag up there. And we learned the importance of max tracks with our old vans, so we have some max tracks mounted up there as well.
Nice.
Yeah, so I think that's everything on the outside. Oh, and we did a bumper step, which yeah, I know that you guys have that already kind of in there.
It's kind of small in the
yeah, and we have the full it goes like the full length of the bumper.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and we can still use our swivel out bike hitch, so with the larger bump step, so that's nice that we can go in and out on both sides. Yeah,
cool.
But yeah, then on the inside I've done all of the tinkering. And a lot of it is just, personality touches and things along those lines. And actually maybe that's one of the pieces of like, I could hang, my own like vinyl wallpaper and things along those lines like super easily in the Revel, and, the sink upgrade and adding, like we added extra shelving in our pantry area. And some lighting in there and things along those lines. So another good thing to have, like really locked off from the dogs.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So you got the GLSS.
Yep, we got the GLSS. We've got, we actually recently purchased the new Canyon Adventure Van's privacy screen for the back. Going to use that as another means of got to train the dogs on how to stay in the back, because they're used to hanging out up front when nobody's in the van.
Gotcha.
But that'll be another piece of just like kind of keeping them cooler in the back without having to cool down the whole van. So being a little bit more efficient in our use of sort of the cooling factor there in our battery life. What else have we done? We actually ended up taking one of the shelves that come as part of the closet in the Revel and cutting it out to make it sort of like a bamboo stand, similar to like if you were like on a shower or something along those lines. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. We've done, custom cut out some carpets and things along those lines. Just a lot of like little personal touches and
make it home away from home.
Totally.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on to Stonation and talking about why you chose the Revel, because a lot of people, I don't know, they don't want to, I'll be honest, but you're brave enough to come on, and I hope
we're all just out there enjoying life, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever floats your boat.
Yeah.
It's more about the adventure.
Yeah, exactly. And I really want to be able to share other people's perspectives on why they chose the Revel or any van other than the Storyteller.
Yeah.
Because there's so many different options out there now. I think Pleasure Way, and I forget the other name, but they came out with a Class B, like a hybrid of a Storyteller and Revel and like all this stuff. So there's so many different options out there, and I think it's just great to be able to, find someone else's, like, I guess, thought process and needs. So that's cool. Yeah. I appreciate you coming on. It's been a blast.
Thanks. Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah. Stonation is a production of Park Media. The executive producer is Younghwa Kim. The audio engineer is
Stephen Grasso.
The marketing director is
Guillaume Golsong.
The original music and artist is done by
Jason Walsmith.
The sound designer is
Lorenzo Interiano.
And the webmaster is
Peng Shi.
Without any of these people, this podcast couldn't happen, so a big, huge thank you. And a big, huge thank you to you, the listener. If you like this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a 5-star review. This is Younghwa with Stonation, and I can't wait to share the road with you.